Hello, everybody. Once again, this is Fred Wanko coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bull Talk on Allen TV. And as usual, I'd like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, depending on where you are around the world. Today, we're going to have a change of pace. We're coming back home. Home is America. Nigeria at this stage is second home for me because I can't even go there. Those blood-hungry people may let me regret that I came there. So for me, home is America. And America has an election coming up in less than 3 weeks. And sadly, very sadly, I've been hearing a lot of fellow Africans, fellow Nigerians, get carried away with shenanigans that they're hearing about the differences between Donald Trump, the Republican candidate, and Kamala Harris, the Democratic candidate. Now, what I want to talk about today is how to address these misguided Africans. It's like raising children, our children that we're raising, or we raised. As they were growing up, especially in America, there are certain values they picked up from their classmates in school or from discussions from their teachers or people they interact with in the neighborhoods they live in that made them start straying towards certain American values that we didn't like or don't like. If you go back and look at many of our families, in families where the parents came to the kids and say, you must not do this or else this will happen. A few times they succeeded. Many times they lost those kids because the kids felt threatened. And in America, people have rights. Your children have rights. The right way to change their mind and bring them back to the right values that you have in your family is to dialogue with them and talk with them. And that's why I'm urging my fellow Africans in America between now and election day, it's a very short time. We must stop arguing and confronting and embarrassing Africans that feel that Donald Trump is who they want to vote for. They have the right to vote for whoever they want to vote for. However, what we need to do every opportunity we have is to dialogue with them in a civil manner and try to convince them about certain misguided views they may have about what's at stake in this election. It's not about Kamala Harris, the lady. What we need to do is try to convince our fellow Africans that are straying. The question is, whose values would you like your children to have? A hardworking woman whose parents were immigrants to America that worked her way up at every level. She has more qualifications coming into this job than Barack Obama did going in to become president. But critically, think about Donald Trump. Do you want a rapist to become the president of America? He molests women. It's on record. He's defending himself all over the place. Do you want a man who has been convicted on 34 counts of different kinds of criminal offenses. Do you want a man who calls your continent a shithole country? Do you want a man who suggested that young, innocent men, black men and Hispanic men, who did not commit a crime they were arrested for, Donald Trump wanted them to be executed even before they were eventually found not guilty? Do you want a man that will promise you anything just to get in office, but you know that his antecedents don't show that those are what his values are? I want to play a few sound bites, and I want people to listen carefully to those sound bites and think deeply about what those significant Americans are saying. Some of them Republican, some of them Democrats, but more significantly, Republicans who are breaking ranks with the Republican Party, Donald Trump specifically, to vote for Kamala Harris, the Democrat. That's significant because this election is not going to be determined by the number of Democrats who vote for Kamala Harris. It's going to be determined by Republicans currently in the closet, not even the ones who have declared for Kamala, but the Republicans in the closet who are scared of Trump's MAGA forces. And when they get into that election booth in secret, they are going to vote for Kamala. Now, let's start out with Donald Trump's shenanigans about immigrants and when he claims that Mexico is not sending their best to America, they are sending criminals. Listen to this.
Like, we need to be honest about, like, our people were the losers of Europe. And I don't mean that, I'm not trying to be judgmental or harsh, I'm just being honest. Like when Donald Trump says Mexico's not sending their best, okay, you think England sent their best?
Now, the next one is listening to a very successful American businessman that has set up businesses and has a payroll and an earned billionaire, and a Republican, a fellow Republican like Donald Trump. Listen to what he says about this fab that we have, or Donald Trump supporters have, about him being such a business person that will turn the economy around. Just listen.
So even though Donald Trump has offered very few specific economic plans, what little he has said is enough to know that he would be very bad for American workers and for American families. But you say, wait. Isn't he a huge business success? Doesn't he know what he's talking about? No, he isn't. And no, he doesn't. Look, his bankruptcies have crushed small businesses and the men and women who work for them. He inherited his business. He didn't create it. And whatever happened to Trump Airlines? How about Trump University? And then there's Trump Magazine and Trump Vodka and Trump Steaks and Trump Mortgage. A business genius he is not.
Now listen to a white person talk about this overblown issue about immigration problems. It helps you understand the double standards of Republicans and how they talk out of two sides of their mouths. But more importantly, it helps you understand that it doesn't matter what Donald Trump promises you. What you need to look at is what Donald Trump's antecedents has been and what Republicans' antecedents have been. Listen to this man.
The reason we have this immigration problem, and I don't mean the one that Donald Trump defines as a problem or that others define as a problem on the far right who are reactionary, Minutemen at the border. I'm talking about the reason we have a narrative problem around immigration and the reason we have such vitriol aimed at folks coming across the border. But keep in mind, only one border, right? The Minutemen do not camp out in boats off the coast of Nova Scotia, shooting at those crafty Canadians as they sneak into our country to take advantage of our superior health care. They don't do that. It's just down there at that other border, which I beg to remind you is an artificial border created at the outcome of a war, which was a war of aggression started on false pretense by this country. Not what they taught us in 8th grade, but now that is what happened. So really, folks are coming home. Can I get an amen? People are coming home. Right? They're coming home. They're coming home. And their families were here a long time before the vast majority of ours, and yet we tell them that they don't belong. Very interesting. The reason this is even possible, though, is because of the narrative we've told about how we, and now I'm talking about those of us of European descent, because black folks know how they got here. Right? A lot of Asian folk know how they got here. A lot of folks were brought over, particularly Chinese folk, to work the railroads, didn't care how many of them died. Right? Indigenous folks know how they got here. Right? But white folks have told a fiction. Right? White folks' story has basically been this. Our people came for liberty and freedom. We came for principles like that. Those people are just coming for stuff. Right? That's what we say in so many words. We came for principles. They're coming for stuff. Let's clear this up. We did not come for liberty and freedom. And I know this because if we had come for liberty and freedom, we would have established liberty and freedom. And I don't just mean with regard to people of color, I mean each other. Like, white folks spent a lot of time in the colonies just trying to figure out who was the bigger witch.
Now, listen to him in so many words say that the whites who established America are nothing but Europe's trash.
Right? So we didn't establish liberty and freedom even vis-a-vis one another. Let's be honest, we came for stuff. We came for stuff like opportunity, stuff like land, stuff like the ability to survive because things weren't working back home. Like, we need to be honest about, like, our people were the losers of Europe. And I don't mean that, I'm not trying to be judgmental or harsh. I'm just being honest. Like when Donald Trump says Mexico's not sending their best. Okay, you think England sent their best?
Now, here is a lady doing what I was talking about in my intro, which is, don't run away from people who disagree with you. Talk with them, dialogue with them. Try to show evidence of who Trump is. They may turn around. Listen to this lady. But more importantly, listen to what she says about what Donald Trump wants to do to people who disagree with him. In her piece, she did not mention Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi, but Trump specifically mentioned those two people as two people he may send the military after because that they are dangerous to America's security. Listen, and if he could do that to people as powerful as Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi, think about what he'll do to people from shithole countries, including the ones who want to vote for him.
Okay, Trump supporters, we need to have a conversation. I have so many Trump supporters who genuinely disagree with me, but we talk all the time in a respectful way and push against each other's views, even if we disagree. And it was brought to my attention that last week at a rally, Trump was talking about how we have outside enemies like Russia and China, and then he basically pivoted towards the real enemy being the enemy within, the scum that y'all have to deal with, aka me, aka the left, okay? And he said that's the bigger enemy. The enemy within is a bigger enemy, bigger than China, bigger than Russia. In his own words at that rally, he said that the left is a bigger enemy than China and Russia. And he talked about using military. It was kind of a choppy sentence, so he kind of touched on like using military action against the enemy within. And you guys wonder why we call him a fascist. We wonder why we link him to Schmittler. You shouldn't wonder why, especially people like me who are descendants of Schmittler and Nazi Germany, okay? I have been saying this for years. I know a Yahtzee when I see one. Trump is one, okay? So then all these people were talking about it because they were like, maybe that's not what he meant. You know how you guys do that? You guys like to tell us that he says it like it is. But then when he says it like it is, you're like, oh, no. He didn't mean that. Don't worry. He's not going to take the military and turn it on his own people. That would be crazy. Except then he doubled down on Fox News over the weekend in an interview, a sit-down interview, where he said that the enemy within is the radical left and that they should be handled by military. Where's the line in the sand going to be for you guys? And how can you not understand why people like us are afraid? If Kamala Harris was talking about taking military action on the right, we would not be okay with that. But you guys are okay with a potential president now twice in 1 week talking about the enemy being from within and taking action upon them with the military and how they're worse than China and Russia. I'm worse than China and Russia. People like me are worse than China and Russia. And you guys think that Kamala Harris and Obama are the ones that are sowing division? No one on our side is talking about taking military action against you. Organized military action against you. Can you guys just stop defending this man and think about this just a little bit deeper about what this means and the influence it's causing on people?
For those Africans who want to vote for Donald Trump, Trump is one of the most unintelligent, ignorant billionaires I've ever listened to. Think about how unintelligent this man is and trying to occupy the highest post in the land, the most important post in the world. He can't even pronounce properly the name of the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg.
Allow it to go in, and it took 2 days, and then Buttigieg, as you say, Buttigieg, called, and I guess...
What the fuck was that? That is a candidate for the President of the United States trying his hardest to pronounce Secretary Pete Buttigieg's name. So he had to say Boot edge, as they say. And I want to remind everybody, this is a candidate for President of the United States for the third time in a row.
Here is a perfect question for misguided Africans who think Donald Trump is the best thing since apple pie. Listen to President Obama stated in a perfect rhetorical question.
If Donald Trump does not care that a mob might attack his own vice president, do you think he cares about you? We are ready for a better story, one that helps us work together instead of turning against each other. And the good news is Kamala Harris is ready to do the job.
And finally, what's Donald Trump hiding? He wouldn't release his tax records for years. He wouldn't release his medical records What's he hiding?
And he's not being transparent with the voters. He's not being transparent. So check this out. He refuses to release his medical records. I've done it. Every other presidential candidate in modern era has done it. He is unwilling to do a 60 Minutes interview. Like every other major party candidate has done for more than half a century. He is unwilling to meet for a second debate. Why does his staff want him to hide away? Are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable to lead America? Is that what's going on?
Let's make no mistakes about it. This election is not about white Donald Trump and black Kamala Harris. This election is about existential issues that will change America and probably the world the way we know it if it goes the wrong way. There are two things that are driving many Nigerians especially, but Africans who lean towards Donald Trump in this election. One is they say he's anti-abortion, and Democrats and Kamala Harris want to kill fetuses in their mothers' wombs. And Donald Trump is that moral, ethical candidate that wants to stop this. It's nothing further from the truth. The second thing in this case for Nigerians is that they say that Democrats are the ones who allowed Buhari to steal the election in 2015, and they are the ones who plotted to get Jonathan out of office. And they nailed that on Obama and Hillary Clinton. And I say, Obama and Hillary Clinton were the ones in office when that happened. But Obama or Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or whoever the American president is does the bidding of America. Not what's in their personal interest, but what's in the diplomatic interest of America with any country they are dealing with. And as far as they were concerned, Jonathan's policies stood anti-American interest in Nigeria. So it doesn't matter who the American president is. They are going to represent America's interest, not Nigeria's interest. To summarize, we need to do whatever it takes to get some of those Africans who want to vote for Trump to change their minds and vote for Kamala. They have the right to vote for whoever they want to vote for. However, what we need to do every opportunity we have is to dialogue with them in a civil manner and try to convince them about certain misguided views they may have about what's at stake in this election. It's not about Kamala Harris, the lady. Whether you think she's Indian, or whether you think she's black, or whether you think she became black because she's running, which is not true. Her entire record shows she leans black. She went to a black college. She pledged with a black sorority, but that's by the way. So what we need to do is try to convince our fellow Africans that are straying. The little percentage among that straying group that we bring back to vote for Kamala is very significant, because that little percentage may make the difference between Trump winning and Kamala winning. The goal here is not to win the fight. The goal here is not to win the argument. The goal here is not to win the moral and ethical justification of the argument. The goal here is to convince somebody who doesn't agree with you to see your point of view and vote for Kamala Harris. On November 6th, or whenever the results are declared, if Kamala Harris wins, it doesn't matter your ego that you put aside to dialogue and convince, as opposed to trying to use your macho to show you are right. Now, as always, ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is Fred Nwankwo coming to you from our studios in Chicago with another edition of Bold Talk on Allen TV. Until next time, good night and God bless.
Asili umueno, angananti okumu, angananti asili umueno, ivi mena numu wagaselele.